Hey, JJ here with the Art of Value. So today I want to talk about Square Investor Day, some takeaways from that. I finally watched the 5.5 hours of material, which was pretty good actually. So again, I'll put the first few seconds of this on Twitter. If you're watching this on Twitter, click one of the links in the tweet to go to the full episode. Okay, let's get into it. So yes, 5.5 hours of material. And so you can't help but understand the company where it's at now after this. They haven't done an investor day since 2018, is it even 2017? And so I'm a fairly new shareholder here. I always admired the company, and by the time I was aware of it, it was super expensive. I thought so. I didn't touch it. Didn't think I'd even get a chance, but didn't. Well, I knew at some stage, companies share prices drop 50% at some stage for every company, and here we are. So I am a new shareholder, and so I was very interested in this investor day, and it's certainly grown a lot in what they do since the beginning, since they went public anyway, and since the beginning, and they explained that. And so this slide here, if you're on video on YouTube or Spotify video, both of these, you'll be able to see this. Otherwise, it's audio elsewhere. I'll explain a bit more than I would just for video because of the audio, lots of audio people on Apple and other platforms. All right, so what I'm looking at here is the ecosystem. It says our ecosystem informs our organizational structure and investment decisions. I had a lot of slides. I'm only going to show a short selection of them. So they talked about an ecosystem of ecosystems. So one big ecosystem encompassing ecosystems, and there's sort of communication between them, some network effects between them. I see it, and there's a lot of the strong network effects with Block. I think definitely, and we'll see that as I talk about it. So they've got Square, started with Square as that card reader in the very beginning, but expanded to a big number of products. And then they've got Cash App, which as they noted in there, when they went public, they mentioned it like once, I think, as something that they were doing. And now it's turned into a big business and gone incredibly viral. So we'll see that in some of the later slides as well. And then emerging initiatives. So there's these three things which involves, so Cash App was an emerging initiative. So it makes me think of Mohnish Pabrai's, I think last year or the year before, talked about this concept of apex spawners and then apex spawners. So they're companies that spawn new businesses, grow them, and acquire new businesses. And Square, used to be Square, Block's done all of those things. I mean, he was talking about, your Googles, your Amazons, your Alibabas, with say Google's at YouTube and search and many other things, and some of them will work, some of them will not. And Amazon, has thrown a lot of things against the wall. Jeff Bezos was prepared to do that. Some of them didn't stick, some of them did, like Amazon Web Services turned into a massive business. So Square I see is similar to that, and I think actually Spotify is like that too. I talked about that before, but the different verticals that they're going into. But this one is about Block. So emerging technologies, they've got Tidal, which that's the least I'm sure about. Like what are they doing with it? It's there. I don't know. So in Spiral, TBD. So these are Bitcoin blockchain developments, Bitcoin wallet, and Bitcoin mining. And you can see how later, if they work out, they can feed into Cash App in particular, but other areas of the bigger business. So the next slide, they're talking about expanding their addressable market over time since they started and since they went IPO. So this chart goes back to 2010, expanding and the addressable market from 2010 they just saw it as certain big, and then 2017 it was up to 60 billion. So 2020 up to 100 billion, and now they see the addressable market as 120 billion. And for Cash App, 70 billion. Square is 120 billion, and Cash App 70 billion. It wouldn't surprise me if they saw Cash App go higher than that as they expand globally, which we'll talk about too. So Square represents a $120 billion gross profit opportunity, they think. And so that would be US commerce, US banking, and international. That's the areas. So Square loans and financial services, 16 billion, integrated payment software, 81 billion, and 25 billion for integrated payment software financial services. And multiple strategies to expand addressable market, they say. So they're talking about to get to that 120 billion. Is enhancing omni-channel capabilities, growing up market, which they've started to do successfully, grow in financial services, and global expansion, which they're also starting to do, and we'll see that later on too. So Cash App represents a $70 billion gross profit opportunity. They say that means that's 28 billion for business accounts, instant deposit, 40 billion for financial services. 28 billion was for community P2P, and 40 billion for financial services, and 3 billion for Bitcoin consumer trading, buying and selling Bitcoin. And so investing in emerging ecosystems with meaningful long-term potential, they say. So there's creators with Tidal, there's consumers with Bitcoin, there's consumers and developers, both of those things. So they've got both of those things going on already. So there's Bitcoin wallet, Bitcoin mining, TBD, and Spiral. So we'll see. I'm not going to dig too much into those. The section, if you watch the video about Bitcoin, it's pretty interesting what they're doing there, because they've got hardware and software solutions, and they're talking about authentication and so forth, but I'm not going to go into that today. So here are the ecosystems. So they've got, I picked out these slides because we've got the Square ecosystem, we've got the Cash App ecosystem, we've got kind of Tidal separate, and then the Bitcoin sort of ecosystem that's developing with Bitcoin hardware, Spiral, and TBD for developers. And what's interesting about the slide is there's a lot of lines and we say synergies, not a popular word these days, but with Afterpay in the middle. So Afterpay going between Square and Cash App sort of in the middle. That's their big acquisition of Buy Now Pay Later. So that all these things kind of work together sort of seamlessly. And what was interesting in the video to see is that the founders of Afterpay are there. They're sort of being, they're working there, and it did seem like they kind of all got on well, and it was all. It's hard to integrate these things, but they were saying that on day one, when the acquisition closed, they were already starting to actually actually going live with things in software on the day of the closure. So they that's impressive as well, because it's hard to integrate two substantial businesses. So, and then this next slide shows the products that they've got that they want coming up. They can see these two ecosystems working with Afterpay in the middle together to produce something much bigger, and also connecting with Tidal to Cash App and Square. They talked about tools for creators, but we'll have to see what happens with Tidal. They've had it for a while, but it's still. They're going to do something different to Spotify, don't they? Spotify's getting into tools. It's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, because I use their Spotify tools, their Anchor, to create creator tools. So they do have some competition there for sure. Investment thesis. So this came near the end, but I'm going to put it close to the front. Each ecosystem with multiple vectors of growth, differentiated ecosystem of ecosystems approach, strong cohort economics driving attractive long-term returns, and operating model built to drive continued innovation. It does seem like they're really innovating a lot, and they've got a lot to go. The thing is that Jack Dorsey seems to be most keen on Bitcoin. He talked about Bitcoin a lot, sort of led that. And I could see that turning into somebody asked, one of the analysts asked, what's your next kind of killer app sort of thing? What's your next big win? So you've got Cash App was the last one. So I think they see it emerging out of their Bitcoin developments and their crypto developments. So strategic priorities, omnichannel software, going global, and grow up market. We talked about that already. So this is an interesting slide if you're on video, or you can swap to video. You go to Spotify video or YouTube if you prefer to see these slides. So we build remarkable software and hardware, and it shows like right from the beginning with the Square reader, that little Square thing that you plug into a phone. But all these products, terminals, chip card reader, a stand for point of sale, pay, and then software is point of sale software, appointments, invoices, team, and payroll, which they can integrate in, so into the Square solution, and some of it into the app, if it involves some into Cash App as well. So the differentiated platform approach, they've got Square microservices. So they've got Square Payroll, Square Online, Square Appointments, Square for Retail, Square for Restaurants, and then subsets underneath that as well. So there's a lot going on in software. I mean, they did mention how they're kind of a software company. Like they do have hardware, but pretty much a software company. And so a global market expansion that they're already in for Square. United States, Canada, Japan, Australia, UK, Falkland Islands. Well, that's a story in itself. Trying out something, a little small market, where they saw it as needed. France, Ireland, and Spain. So Spain's the newest, I believe, and France was before that. Cash App ecosystem. So they talked about, this was quite a long video. It's worth watching. And I found that one of the most interesting. So saying they started with the card reader, and they wanted to let anyone send money using the tools already in their pocket. So that people had phones and a debit card or a credit card. Redefine the world's relationship with money by making it more relatable, instantly available, and universally accessible. That is kind of their goal. And this is an interesting slide if you're on video, because it shows the Cash App, the virality of it, how it started. And I mean, I found this is what kind of really got me interested in Square. I was interested already, but Cash App's just kind of gone bananas. The virality of it, like it's, we'll see, because I've got a couple of slides on it, but it started in the South, in Southern America, and kind of went on sort of spread around the country from there. But excellent coverage over in the US, spreading like kind of a social network, which is interesting, isn't it? Because Jack Dorsey started Twitter, and he was one of the co-founders, been there for ages, and he knows how to do this. Has created another app that's gone viral, and it's not just, I mean, it's as viral as Twitter is. It's the number one, this in the slide, the number one finance app in the App Store for 5 years. So that, the other ones like Venmo and PayPal, it's the number one in the App Store for 5 years already, and it's the 8th most downloaded app in the US in 2021. Not just in the finance category, it's the 8th most downloaded. That's how impressively viral it is and popular. So these ones like there's TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Messenger, and Zoom, and Instagram, and HBO Max, and boom, it's Square. I don't know if those are exactly the top. I guess they are. Well, HBO Max, it's interesting. For 2021, that was one in the top 8. So Cash App's acquisition cost versus industry. So because of this virality, the acquisition cost is only $10 versus neobanks 30 to 50 and retail banks 300 to 600. And their strong monetization is credited to our ecosystem strategy, they say. And product launches have been a driver to increase gross profit for actives. So they've got a graph here going up, up, up. Okay, I'm not going to make this too much longer. Where it's just meant to be an overall takeaways from this. So, I mean, when you watch it the 5 hours, you do get an impression that it's a strong and fast-growing business. I mean, of course, that's the impression they want to give. But no matter what the share price does, you can tell the business is going from strength to strength. So they talk about inflows and outflows of money as well. This is what this graph is. And they said they don't worry about outflows. They don't necessarily want to get people's money and keep it in their system, keep it in their ecosystem. Coming in and out's fine. Or they just didn't want to trap people in there. That would be a negative. But it tends to, the more products and useful things they've got, say in Cash App, the more it stays in there. We get instant deposit, ATM, Bitcoin, stocks, Cash App, card, and P2P. And inflows coming from P2P, paper checks, and direct deposit. So people start direct deposit from their jobs in there, and that'll be good inflows. Inflows Square from Square payroll, and outflows to the Lightning Network and Cash App Pay and Afterpay. So the Lightning Network being Bitcoin. If you don't know what Lightning Network is, it's worth finding out. It's a way to speed up transactions with Bitcoin, which should be, they're counting on being bigger thing in the past, and they're helping to spread that, of course. So they talk about financial services, Cash App card, 15 million monthly actives on Cash Card, credit 1 million plus users to borrow, cumulative borrow actives, stocks 4 million active trades or held stock in March 2022. So this is all inside the Cash App. So inflows are multiplied by products. So they say the more products that people use inside the Cash App, the kind of more sticky it is, and the multiplier for people staying in there, and how much money Cash Block can actually earn. So they've got P2P only is 1 times, stock trading 1.9, right up to Cash App card, taxes, borrow, and direct deposit right up to 6.5x. So crypto as well, Bitcoin instantly, you can buy Bitcoin instantly through there. So, they're adding. One thing they said about all this, after saying this, is that they've got navigation overflow in the app. They're redesigning it because there are too many, not that there's too many products, they want those products, but the current design has reached its maximum, and they're going to redesign it, and because they want more products in there, and just going to totally redesign it. So that'll be interesting to see what they do there. About discovery, search and discover, feed, and money is going to be kind of how it goes. And it wouldn't surprise me if they added kind of a social media element quite a lot in there too. Seeing if Jack, I don't see how Jack wouldn't sort of think about that a lot. So Afterpay is also, Afterpay connects our 2 largest ecosystems, Square and Cash App. So it connects the 2 together. That's the way they see it. Afterpay is pretty big user base, and a little bit different to Square. So it does have, they can work together to expand each other. So they've got Afterpay annual active consumers, 4 million in the US and New Zealand, where I am in New Zealand, and the US 13 million, and UK and EU is 3 million. So North America is 13 million, not just the US, and 4 million, which is pretty strong for US and for Australia and New Zealand, and Australia is where it was founded, of course. Cash App monthly actives, 45 million in the US and 450k in Spain, and the UK 160. So you can see how these two working together can, like Afterpay can help spread Cash App can help spread Afterpay. Afterpay annual active consumers, 4 million. Yeah, I've seen that. And so they've got a little graph of the world here and how it can all kind of mesh together into the ecosystem can join together, and of course. And then the Square as well, which kind of works together also with Cash App. So that's it. That's just the takeaways. It seems to me the overall perception is that it's going pretty well, and the share price dropping, of course. And I'm, I just think I wouldn't be interested in this if it wasn't at least a 10x opportunity over the next, whatever time. And I'm less and less interested in big companies for that reason. Like the smaller it is, the more risk it usually is, but the bigger growth could be over time. That's where your 100x's are, as I've talked about in other podcasts about like 100 baggers and so forth. But so the smaller the better. But I think this one is a possibility to be as big as some of the other FANG stocks, for instance, over time. That the TAMs are huge, and I think Twitter was problematic for Jack. I don't think he really ever cared about the advertising model, to be honest. But I think this time, with his second company, he's got it right, and it's really working well, and they're expanding it. As I said, in a spawner, an Apex spawner, it's definitely working that way. So I'm pretty keen on the company. It's not financial advice. It's just what I'm doing and the way that I'm seeing it. And I would recommend watching the 5.5 hours of this. They obviously took a long time to put it together, and COVID kind of stopped it for a while, but it's good to see. All right, if you like this, like and subscribe. I use, as I said, YouTube, Spotify, and other audio places, and on Twitter at The Art of Value.